Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again for another set of stories here on Thailand Bound. Right, before we get into the stories, a couple of things. The first thing I'd like to say to you is I put my hands up. I messed up last week. I cocked up, I really did. I started getting messages from people saying, hey, hang on a minute, Peter, you read that story out last week. Or some other people were saying, I've heard that on another channel. But actually what it was, I messed up and I actually read out the same story twice in a row. Luckily it was a short story, so apologies for that. You were right, I was wrong. Hands up, won't do it again, promise. Okay, the second thing is I had a guy write to me in the week. He left a comment actually. He said, why do you waste your time talking about these negative comments that people leave on your channel? You're just wasting your time, just getting to the stories. I think what it is, I just find them, highly amusing. Some of the things that people say, it's not so much having a go at me, but they say things like, oh, I couldn't watch the video because your shirt was too bright and it put me off, or I don't like your hairstyle. And these are genuine comments, and you think, really? So that's the only reason I read them out. It's for entertainment value. I think they're funny, and sometimes I just hope that you find them amusing. But all right, I'll stop waffling now. Let's get into the first of 4 stories.
สวัสดีค่ะ
A bit of background. I'm in my early 30s and have been travelling to Thailand since 2015. This is going to be 2 stories packed into one, starting in the Philippines, and the second part is kind of related to it, happening in Thailand in 2018. I was on my regular summer trip to Bangkok, and that year I decided to visit the Philippines as well to try something new. I was quite curious about the bar scene there. Obviously I watched videos online, including YouTube. I was feeling confident, and one sleepless night in Bangkok, doing the rounds in Nana Plaza and clubbing before catching an early flight, and here I was in Cebu. Damn, that was something. There was no cash in the ATM at the airport, so no way to pay for a taxi. I only had Thai baht. After what was my 6th try, I finally managed to withdraw a little bit of cash. I chose my hotel to be located within the walking distance to a nightclub complex. It felt quite familiar, like Soi 4 in Bangkok. As everywhere I went, I would have ladies asking me on the streets if I wanted a massage. By the time I arrived at my hotel at 7 p.m, I was starving and worse for wear. I had a layover and no sleep besides the flight. Next to my hotel there was a bar offering food, and that's where the fun begins. I was baffled at how nice it was. Live band, movies displayed on screen, pool table. It felt like heaven. 2 waitresses come up to chat with me, and I told them I only wanted to eat. One of them, let's call her Claire, stayed with me while I was waiting for the food. She was a nice lady and easygoing. I was straightforward with her, explaining that I was tired from my flight and I would come back later since I was in no shape to go out right now, but I would join them after a while. After an awkward meal where the 2 of them spoke their own language while staying at my table and I was eating, Claire told me she would go out with her friends to the nightclub complex and that I could join them. Plain hard to get, I responded with a maybe. About an hour later, I returned to the bar and found Claire there. I was pleasantly surprised, and she repeated her previous offer. This time I agreed to it, and when her friends arrived, we started walking towards the club. Claire was very forward, flirting with me inside the club and purposely rubbing herself up against my body, to put it lightly. So there I was with 4 girls in a club where most of the men were Korean tourists. For 2,000 pesos, roughly 30 euros, I got a table with 2 bottles of beer, food and soft drinks. It was mind-blowingly cheap. On our way back, she dropped a bombshell. She told me, by the way, I'm a working girl. This explained why it felt too good to be true and came as no surprise, aside from how bluntly she had put it. But then she added, can we avoid passing through the bar we were at? I don't want them to see me with you. I asked why. She replied, well, I have a sponsor and I don't want them to snitch on me if they see me with you. I used to work there and I like to hang out at that bar. At that point, she had worked on me so much that I didn't feel like backing down. So we went to the hotel all along, and I kept thinking to myself, how much is this going to cost me? At 4 a.m, after it was all done, she made an excuse to leave, and she never talked about money. She never even asked for it. It was strange for someone who claimed to be a working girl just a few hours ago. We agreed to meet again the next night at the same bar. However, there was a little issue during the aerobics. My protection broke. She panicked and asked if I had aerobics with other Filipinos because STDs are rampant, and we concluded that we should meet again to discuss it. After that night, I felt confident. Moreover, at 8 a.m. I had a date with a local girl just 3 hours later. After 2 hours feeling tired, as it was my second sleepless night, I told Claire I was going back to my place, and she decided to come along. Pointless to sleep, I decided to shower, get ready, and be early for the date at the agreed meeting point. I set the alarm after eating something. Alas, while sitting and ready to take a short nap, I nearly passed out. The sound of my phone falling onto the floor triggered a last burst of energy, awakening me. I picked up my phone and fell asleep. 48 hours without proper sleep. Unfortunately, my date, let's call her Lucy, arrived, and since she cancelled something to be with me, I would have felt very selfish to let her down. So I just told her that I was very tired and I would like to nap. That was sincere, but it ended up with Lucy and me in bed at my hotel. She watched TV as I slept. At some point, she became tired of me being asleep and initiated aerobics with me. I was reluctant, but she convinced me. I was still numb from lack of sleep and woke up at 7 p.m, only to find out that Claire wasn't at the bar at 9 p.m. as agreed. I was feeling a mix of emotions, high levels of confidence and a sense of disappointment. At that point, Lucy texted me blaming me for her cancellation. That night I got wasted after finding an Aussie drinking buddy. I said to myself, oh well, forget all that crap, so I spent all my money and walked back home. That's when I got stupid. Fueled by alcohol, I was passing by a nightclub complex. A girl outside approached me and my first answer was, no, I don't want company tonight. She replied with, I'm not a hooker. I hadn't the energy to fight for it, which was a fatal mistake later on. In my drunken state, I was thinking, why not walk home with somebody? I'm quite successful with the ladies here after all, so it could be another stroke of luck, and I'd like some companionship. Well, when she was in my room, I sobered up fast. She threatened to hurt herself if I didn't empty my wallet and safe, claiming that the cops here are corrupt, and she told me that she would make me do jail time by telling the cops that I assaulted her. She pointed out that it would be her word as a woman against my word as a foreign man. I replied with, well, if I was walking back home and I wasn't in a taxi, it's for a good reason, isn't it? I've got no money to pay for a taxi. Her face became livid, a mix of extreme anger, despair, and realization that she had targeted someone with no money. I got my wallet out and I showed her. You see, it's empty. I opened my safe and there was 400 baht. I grabbed the baht and handed it to her. She was shaken by now and said, if we see you spending money at night, things will happen to you. Okay, that's a death threat for me. I spent the whole night freaking out, thinking she might pull something else. I was imagining all kinds of scenarios. I bought the first ticket out of the country and headed back to Bangkok. Since that experience, I sometimes get a bit paranoid, so I'll move on to the second shorter story. I must say Thailand is probably the safest country in the world that I know of, but even in Bangkok I would not dare go directly to a girl's condo due to the fear of a trap after my experience in the Philippines. Even in Paris I take many precautions. Once in 2022 I had my suspicions when I matched with a very attractive girl on Tinder. She quickly wanted to meet me at my hotel. She wasn't a bar girl, but I became suspicious that she might be a ladyboy. When I asked her, she denied it. Then she asked for something super weird, my booking number and my full name. She justified it by saying, you could get lost and I would have to come for nothing. Such nonsense, getting lost in my own hotel room. These were major red flags that reminded me of the traps I encountered in the Philippines. All of this killed the mood too. I didn't care as I had arranged to meet a lady later on. I bluntly cancelled the meeting with the suspicious girl. I even admitted that I was going to post this on social media to see if she was trying to scam me. I posted it anonymously. Most people said she was a bar girl because no one would go to someone's hotel room like that. However, most people thought it wasn't a scam and I was just being paranoid. One comment that I personally believe, as my Thai ex-girlfriend told me, that many Thai girls use Khao San Road as a hunting ground to find handsome young foreign guys for a one-night stand. Maybe this girl who had contacted me simply wanted to come over for a one-night stand like those girls on Khao San Road. Who knows? So I decided to agree to meet her, but we would go to a jazz bar nearby to my hotel. She parked her car at my hotel and off we went. When we met, I found her to have quite a deep voice and she was tall. I diplomatically asked her again if she was a ladyboy. She said no and explained that she had a cold, hence her deep voice. Ladyboys generally admit when they are ladyboys. They don't normally lie and say they are a woman. We had our date. She was working in fashion, another ladyboy red flag if you ask me. On the way back to the hotel, she hinted that she wanted to go further. A new red flag popped up. She would need to hand in her ID to reception if going to my room. She told me that she quickly left home so forgot to bring it. What about your driving license? Same, she replied. This was the last and only sure way of identifying her as a ladyboy or not. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I did eventually manage to get her back to the room. She asked me to switch off the light immediately, another ladyboy red flag. I was getting super nervous by now. After she'd undressed, I touched her and found that it felt quite different. Not like a man, but then again not like a woman. I said to her, "Oh, this feels quite different." Then she yelled out in anger, "You know, all women's private parts are different." She quickly got dressed, walked and slammed the door. I was supposed to meet another woman on Soy 11 at 10 p.m, but it was already 11 p.m. I shrugged it off. I texted another girl with her and gave some excuse and joined her. I would never know if that person who came to my room was a ladyboy or not. Wouldn't any woman get angry at my remarks? I parted with the other girl, but it was a curious situation though, because she wanted money if we had aerobics, which I said then no to aerobics. I don't pay for it. Later she wanted to negotiate staying longer with me in exchange for money, but she didn't ask for money. She tried negotiating with me. She told me, "Look, I like you, I won't charge you any money, but if I'm with you, I'm not working and I need money." Again, I told her, "I just don't like pain. If you want to be friends, I'll meet you after you finish work." When I was back home in 2019, I was messing around on a popular dating website. I spotted an absolute stunner who had just registered. We clicked pretty quickly, and in a few days her profile was gone from the dating website. When I inquired why, she confirmed she deleted it. I didn't comment any further on that. It seemed like an obvious sign that she was happy to have me as a contact. Let's call her Noi. When I was in Thailand, we made plans to meet in a mall on the other side of Khao Sun Road. I found out later on that previously she was an ex-high-soul girl who had a lot of money. She had it all, a great life, but unfortunately lost everything due to the mishandling of cash flow in the business she had with her Thai boyfriend, which eventually went under. Apparently she had met her Thai boyfriend as they attended the same university, so she had a fairly good education. She told me that her ex also had quite a few girls on the side all the time that they were together, so I kind of felt sorry for her. She got my attention when she mentioned that she was having money problems and her bank were chasing her for payments. I thought to myself, here we go again. As it turned out, it wasn't a ploy to get money out of me, she was just telling me about herself. She was a good looking woman for her age. She told me her friends thought she was crazy because she had good looks and she could make a lot of money, but she told me that she couldn't have short-term relationships like that with anybody unless she had genuine feelings for them. I tended to believe her. On this trip, I was in Thailand for about a month and I had met Noi in the earlier part of my trip. We kind of just clicked and I spent most of my holiday with her as she was good fun and nice to be with. On the flight home, I seriously thought about trying to form a long-term relationship with Noi. I was reluctant from forming any long-term relationship as I had been engaged and that hadn't worked out and I swore never again. However, on the other hand, I was getting a little tired of one-night stands and Noi made me feel good. Every day we talked until January 2020. She was amazed that I called her every day. We made plans to take a trip together to Koh Chang. As it happens, it turned out to be the best holiday I've ever had. The beach was amazing, Noi was amazing, the food was amazing too. What made it even better was that she drove us from Bangkok to Koh Chang in a nice car and we received a lot of looks from the locals. We celebrated my birthday together on the island and she brought me gifts that I still use to this day. She said, "I thought I'd buy you this nice tie so every time you go to work you will think of me." It was a really sweet gesture and she really spoiled me. However, there were moments when she would say or do things that created distance between us. things that a real girlfriend probably wouldn't do. But I always said to myself that it must be because it was just a different culture. After this trip, I really wanted to go to Koh Larn, but she suggested spending time in Pattaya since she knows I love partying. It's so weird how she knows what's going on there. I know what's going on there, even though I was hinting to her that I didn't know. Is she giving me a pass? Does she not care that I could mess around with other girls, or was this a test? By the way, she now works in a business related to real estate, so she could not come to Pattaya with me. In hindsight, it was probably a test. I should mention at this point that I don't usually drink alcohol, but when I came to Thailand, I tend to party quite a bit. Well, on this particular night, I went out and got totally smashed, and I was buying ladies' drinks. I woke up with a terrible hangover and an even worse text from Noi. She had tried calling me several times in the evening, but I had left my phone in the room as I did not want to lose it if I got drunk. I video called her, showing her that nobody was in my room, but that wasn't enough. To this day, I have no clue what she exactly thinks. I was on her Facebook profile. Did a friend tell her that I'd been partying with other women? I'm not sure myself how I even came back to my room. I was that smashed. So, does she know something I don't know? Had somebody spotted me and called her? So apparently she had lost face and she was deeply hurt at whatever I had done, but I couldn't remember. As a businessman, I don't give up easily. I tried to reconcile with her again and again. This reminded me of a weird night I'd experienced with her. Once in Carlson Road with her and one of her friends, I told her that a girl had tried to grab me in the toilet hallway. She got so mad about it, saying things like, "Go with that girl then." In the end, it worked out, but things really got out of hand for a while. What's scary is that she once attacked her ex-boyfriend out of jealousy during a night out because a girl asked for his number. So I tried to fight for our relationship like I did that time. Unfortunately, it was a lost cause. She claimed to have feelings for me, but maybe I was just a rebound guy. Deep down from the beginning, I struggled with guilt because of the age gap. I wasn't ready for kids, but she didn't have the same time frame as I did, yet I liked her too much. Anyway, the holidays were soon over, and on January 2022, it was time to fly home again. Passing through Beijing, my worried family told me to be cautious in China due to a nasty virus that had sprung up there. I was heartbroken on the flight home and thought I'd return to Thailand soon. However, at this point in time, little did I know that this virus that had sprung up would become a worldwide pandemic. Several months into the pandemic, when we were all under lockdown, I received a message out of the blue from Noi. She sent me a naughty video of herself and said that we could remain friends, so we decided to support each other morally while this was going on. I was thinking to myself, great, something good has come out of this pandemic, but like most long distance relationships, she became distant as time went on. I decided to contact her and confront her and asked her why she was becoming distant. She told me that we could never be together again as boyfriend and girlfriend, as I had hurt her in the past. So my response was, why had she contacted me in the first place again then? I never received an answer back to my question. A few weeks later, I decided to take a look at her Facebook profile, and yes, she'd found a new man. I felt very hurt and depressed when I was looking at the pictures, but in hindsight, I wasn't as nice to her as I should have been. I sent her a message wishing her all the best in her relationship, but again, I received no answer. I don't hold any grudges against her. She's a lovely woman. The fact that there was an age gap didn't help, so I suppose the relationship was doomed from the beginning, and the way I behaved certainly didn't help the situation. So that was the end for me and Noi, but I'll never forget her. So many great memories of being together with my Thai girlfriend. A great couple of stories there. So actually this upload is actually 5 stories, not 4, because he's actually told 2. So just going back to his original story there in the Philippines, this is something, the story about the girl threatening him. It's unbelievable, isn't it? He's taking this girl back to his room and she's basically saying, look, if you don't give me everything you've got, I'm going to tell the police that you abused me or something like that. And I've never ever, in over 30 years living and coming to Thailand, I've never heard of that happening here. There's been a few bits and pieces that the boys in brown jump on pretty quick, but not as bad as that. And As far as the second story goes, yeah, the problem is there was an age difference. If you don't know what high soul means, it means it's short for high society. It means she was up there with the rest of them, and obviously lost everything. So, all right, let's jump straight into story number 2. Hi Peter, this is my part 2 to my story from volume 191, story number 1. I just came back from my first trip to Thailand. I was in Thailand for 7 days and the Philippines for 13 days. I went with 2 other friends. John from my first story was able to join me. I will start with my Thailand Pattaya trip since that is what your listeners are most familiar with. One thing that really surprised me about Thailand was how expensive it was now. But I can say you do get what you pay for. The girls on Walking Street were so beautiful. I have not seen so many 1010s in one place before. The first night I met this really pretty girl. I'm sad to report back that I got scammed. However, we had a wonderful time at first. We got to know each other, went to a club with my 2 friends, went back to my place to continue drinking. It was late in the night and we were about to go to bed. She stops me and gives me the bad news. She says, I thought you just wanted to go drinking with me. It's that time of the month for me, so I can't do any aerobics. I was floored. Knowing how the bar works, I said to her, you've tricked me. After a while, she said to me, if you feel like I've tricked you, you can have some of your money back. Me, not wanting to cause a huge scene, just asked her to give me back 2,000 baht. I had paid 6,500 baht for her and the bar fine. After this expensive mistake, I vowed not to go and throw any more money on Walking Street. The next day, my friends and I decided to go to the beer bars where it would be more affordable. Thank goodness this was just the case. Me and one of my other friends were able to find some girls who worked at the same bar and would keep us company for 4,000 baht. These girls were down to earth, easy to get along with, and seemed to genuinely like us. They were not a 9 or 10 like the girls from the Walking Street, but more like a 6 or 7, which is fine with me, given the price difference. I know they genuinely liked us because they agreed to come over after work on 3 separate days where we did not pay the bar fines. They even took us to a zoo and temples. Of course, we had to pay for the food and expenses, but it was well worth it. That concludes my Thailand adventure. Expensive but great food and great place to be a tourist. Now for my continuation of the story from my friend John and May, who he met in the Philippines a year ago. As I mentioned on my previous trip, May and my friend John had kept up communication since our last trip a year ago. John was so excited to see her, he planned a 7-day trip within the Philippines to take her around. He asked her to go to a friend and said there would be no payment, and she agreed because John had this planned. Me and my other friends were forced on a mission to find company who would join us for 7 days. My friend was successful on the first night and I was successful on the second day. The next 7 days were awesome for me and my friend, but I'm sure your listeners don't want to hear a boring story like this. Fear not, something interesting did happen. So I mentioned my other friend and I had a great time, but I cannot say the same for John. May, who was awesome the year before, had totally changed. She would not take part in conversations. She was always on her phone and she did not give my friend John much attention. We let the girls have a night out. I had my girl spy on May to see what she was up to. They were all meeting one of their friends. Guess what? May's friend was a guy. I told John this and he freaked out. He had planned to give May a few thousand peso to help her since she took 7 days off work. After hearing this, he said she isn't getting a single dollar from me. The 7 days pass and we send our companions home as we have a flight the next day to catch. May left without saying anything. It was around 6 p.m. when John receives a text from May. What she wrote can only be described as crazy. She texts him, my rent is due and I need 8,000 pesos to pay it or I will be homeless. This was obviously a lie. John told May he would meet her in the morning and will give her the money. She said she was busy and demanded that he meet her immediately. John, knowing he was in a foreign country, just wanted to get out of the situation because who knows who she would call for help if he did not comply. He told her to come and he gave her the 8,000 pesos so she could go away. This is about 170 US dollars. It is not a lot, but we couldn't believe she would put him in that situation. Let's just say that John was very sad and disappointed on our flight back home. This is a perfect example of why you cannot trust a bar girl. Well, the thing is, they're doing their job, aren't they? They're bar girls and they're trying to deceive. Your job is to kind of keep as much of your money in your pocket, and their job is to relieve you of that money. They're doing their job. That's what they do, bar girls, right? So it comes as no surprise. But the other thing is, I wouldn't have paid the 8,000 baht. I'd have said do your best, because they've only got so much. If they're leaving the following day, they're going to come out of the hotel, get in a cab, go to the airport. What's she going to do? For $170, I wouldn't have paid it, but there you go. Okay, let's jump straight into story number 3. This is a very well written story. This captivating tale begins with my first trip to Thailand in 2019, where I encountered Som, a charming girl whose true identity was shrouded in mystery. Som and I connected on Thai Friendly the very day I arrived in Thailand. Her genuine interest was refreshing, as they starkly contrasted with the indifferent attitudes I had encountered on European dating apps. I landed in Bangkok on a Sunday and checked into a travel lodge, a budget hotel on Sukhumvit Soi 11 that boasted a rooftop swimming pool. At just €40 a night, it was an exceptional deal. After some delightful banter, Som agreed to meet that same day. Though she lived near a BTS station en route, she graciously agreed to come to Sukhumvit 11, given I'm unfamiliar with the city. Our meeting began with a dinner at a pleasant Thai restaurant where I insisted on paying the bill. The food was delicious and the entire feast cost less than 1,000 baht. Although the cuisine was authentically Thai, it was mildly spiced to cater to foreign tastes. Throughout dinner, Som flirted playfully and communicated using her limited English. It was truly an enjoyable evening. As we left the restaurant, I invited her for a drink at a nearby pub used by foreigners. After about an hour of lively conversation over drinks, my jet lag began to take its toll. When I mentioned my exhaustion, Som kindly offered to accompany me and massage me to sleep. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. Once in my room, I took a shower and flipped through the available TV channels while Som did the same. To my surprise, she emerged completely naked, flaunting her stunning petite figure. Although I was exhausted, I couldn't help be captivated by her beauty. We made love that night and I found myself marvelling at the endless possibilities that Thailand seemed to offer. The following morning, I awoke early as usual. While Som was still asleep, I had noticed her awake at around 3 a.m, but I didn't think much of it. When she finally stirred, I asked her about her work schedule and offered to call a cab. She claimed she had the day off thanks to a co-worker covering her shift. This struck me as kind of odd, but I shrugged it off as cultural differences. We spent the day exploring Bangkok, visiting popular tourist spots like the Grand Palace and Wat Po. Som served as a great tour guide, sharing her knowledge of these cities, histories and significance. As the day progressed, we grew increasingly comfortable with each other, even sharing personal stories about our families and past relationships. That evening, we ventured to Asiatique, a bustling riverside night market where you can eat. We sampled local street food and haggled the vendors, an area in which Som excelled. Later, we enjoyed cocktails at a rooftop bar, glittering Bangkok skyline providing the perfect backdrop for discussion of our dreams and hopes. Despite my lingering suspicions about Som's work situation, I chose to give her the benefit of the doubt, unwilling to let the doubts tarnish our connection. We spent 5 days together, during which time her mysterious profession continued to puzzle me. Each time I inquired about her work, she would insist her co-workers were covering for her and urge me to relax and enjoy her company. On the 6th day, I was scheduled to fly to Chiang Mai. Som expressed her desire to join me, but I declined, citing my pre-booked accommodations and the unexpected expense of her accompanying me. Her claim that her boss granted her additional vacation days only deepened my suspicions. I advised we had to part ways, as it was not possible for me to pay the bill on a whole trip and hotel this time, as I had a budget that I had to stick to. After Som left that day so I could catch my flight to Chiang Mai, I was struck by an ingenious idea. I decided to create a fake profile on Thai Friendly to get to the bottom of the mystery surrounding her. Using realistic photos of an older man, I crafted a convincing sugar daddy persona, complete with all the trappings necessary to lure any unsuspecting woman with a promise of wealth. I find her profile and promptly messaged her, proposing a short-term encounter for 10,000 baht. I told her that she had a lovely smile and was very pretty. She took the bait without hesitation, eagerly agreeing to the terms and asking for the location and room number. Her smooth handling of the situation revealed her true colours and confirmed my suspicions. She was not who she claimed to be. Thus my first adventure in Bangkok, Thailand unfolded as a tale of intrigue, passion and the unveiling of her true identity. Okay guys, that's it for this week. I'm going to keep the waffling to a minimum at the end of this upload today. So all that's left to say is thanks for watching. There'll be more stories next Saturday, and whatever you're doing this weekend, stay safe.